delay, Devin, but
Perfect.
hold on. Okay, so we're live right now, but there'll be a 15-second delay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Hawaii. So we are live right now. But just Hawaii was nice. Some guy had posted on the YouTube channel about after a while you just get tired of driving around the island all the time. You want to get back to the mainland. I said I could see that for sure. But man, it's freaking gorgeous. At least Oahu, as I say. But everyone's like, Maui's where it's at. Maui. Have you ever been to Hawaii, Devin?
No. I think it would be amazing to visit at least. But the thing is, we're so close to a beach here that it's just easier to hop on the 40-minute plane and get there,
Oh, man.
So, but that's really interesting. You went there, and maybe did you go and visit Pearl Harbor?
It was sold out. They only apparently there's like 2 tours a day they normally have, and now they only had 1 a day. So it was sold out. We couldn't do that. We were able, and there's another thing we couldn't do either. I forgot what it was, but we were able to go to the Diamond Head. Well, that was a lot of fun. And then we were able to go to North Shore a bunch of times, with the Waikiki, whatever it's called. That was fun. It's nice. I mean, I'm glad I went. I probably won't go back, frankly, but it's all good. I guess my next, I got to get to Nova Scotia, Canada, man. That's where I got to go. That's my next place. But Canada's nuts, so it probably will be until Justin Trudeau is no longer the prime minister, because Canada's insane. But that's my next bucket list in Calgary. I got to get those 2 places in Calgary. Maybe back to Alaska. I've been to Alaska one time for a day. My brother and I, he worked at American West Airlines in Phoenix, and he the last flight of the year back and forth from Phoenix to Anchorage. This is on, man. Doug says it's on.
Why don't you run against Lisa Murkowski?
Man, I ain't run for nothing. Too many skeletons. No, we are on, but Lisa Murkowski, what a clown. What a clown. I'm not sure if I think she's up, isn't she, this next go-round?
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's someone running against her.
As in the Republican primary?
Yeah, someone that's more mega's running against her in the primary. So.
Well, she lost in the Tea Party against Joe. I can't. I love that guy, Joe. Man, but he beat her in the primary, but she ran as an independent, and then the Democrat threw in with Lisa, and so Joe. I want to say it's Murray, but it's not. But all right, folks. So let's appreciate y'all being here. So we got my man Devin. Devin, how you say your last name, Devin?
Hauer.
Hauer. Okay, I almost called you Hauser. There used to be an old coach of the Kansas City Royals named Hauser,
like Rutger Hauer, the actor.
Okay.
Yeah. He's from the 70s actor, I guess.
Really?
I'm not related to him at all. But everyone asks me, are you related to him? Like,
are you serious?
I don't get any money from that guy. Believe me,
But he's not your long-lost dad or anything like that.
Maybe a second or third cousin somewhere from some country. I don't know. But I gotta call his agent and figure that out.
You gotta say, hey man, you owe me royalties.
Yeah, big time. Especially in this economy,
So, folks, Devin was a longtime watcher of my YouTube channel, and I can't remember. I said, man, you should do I forgot why we talked, but I said, man, you should do a YouTube channel. He did one. Now he's over 1,000, so he's making that sweet YouTube money. Probably like $15 a day a week or something like that. But it all starts someplace, so it's cool. But and so Devin and I were talking, and it turns out he is in He's in Mexico. And I said, man, and I guess we've known each other, Devin, via YouTube for 3 years now. It's crazy how fast time goes. Nuts. Dick Hauser, that's right, Dodger Blue. Royals with Dick Hauser, that's right. All right, so right, Dick Hauser for the Royals. But anyway, so it was occurring to me. I was talking to a client the other day. They're going to retire to Panama. And I remember Devin lives in Mexico. I said it would be cool to identify, with more boots on the ground, like what the Mexico healthcare is like, what's like living in Mexico. Devin is inclined to potentially come back stateside, and he's obviously a young guy. But I thought it'd be pretty cool to get a lay of the land of someone who's there right now, who's literally working there. And we Devin and I interviewed a couple that moved to Mexico from Seattle. They were real nice, and that's where I heard about the 2-tier system for healthcare and all that. And that's where kind of got my thinking cap on about what Mexico could be for people looking to retire. But anyway, appreciate you being here, Devin. Just tell us about old Devin if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Josh, and it's an honor for me. You're in my, like I have already told you before, you're in my ear like every day for the last few years. Really enjoy your channel. Get a
Send
lot of
me
great.
money. Send me
Yeah,
money.
there you
As
go. Send that sweet, sweet money. Burn that cash, right? Uh, but your channel's been really helpful for me in many ways, and I've learned a tremendous amount. I can't believe it's for free on YouTube, but
Yeah.
I think you've changed a lot of lives. So thank you
Uh,
before anything else, Josh. And um, I've been coming to Mexico since I was a kid. When my parents split up, I'm originally from the States. When my parents split up, my
what
mom,
state specifically? Someone asked you. Is there a state you call home?
um, I was born in Wisconsin, and then I grew up in Peoria, Illinois, when my
Okay,
dad lived, when
gotcha.
my dad moved there. So I grew up with him. My mom moved down here, remarried, and
Moved down here to Mexico.
to
Oh,
Mexico
okay.
City. So
Oh,
I've been coming here since I was really young. I mean, we were going on the plane, and me and my brothers, and having to be accompanied by, the special flight people and take us through customs and all that. It was just a whole thing. But I've been coming here since a kid, and so I've grown up and known Mexico really since the '80s, and so I know a lot about the people, the culture, it what it encompasses, how the way of life and everything else. So around 2003, I met a girl at a night during Independence Day. I won't say I wasn't drinking water. Let's just put it that way. Um, and I met who's now my wife that day, and it was Independence Day in Mexico, and we were at a karaoke bar slash restaurant, and somehow in the course of the evening, by not drinking water, I started singing "Born in the USA" on Mexican Independence Day in
oh,
September. So that was my now wife's first impression of me. Um, and I met her parents that night as well because they picked us up, and I was not in the best of shape that night. And I had to leave the next day to go to England because I did my undergraduate, my master's in England. And the very next day, I left for England with my mom, who took me there. And it was just unbelievable, first. I don't know. It's just such a hard story to tell sometimes. I just
was
can't believe
she's
what?
Mexican, your wife?
She's Mexican, yeah.
And
So
her parents are like traditional Mexicans, and they're like seeing this drunk, gringo singing "Born in the USA" on
Mexican
Mexican
Independence Day, yeah. And
drunk as fuck.
God must have intervened somehow just to make the stars align for us to be together. I don't know. But so time went on. I was living in England in the 2000s, and then I came back here to visit my mom, and then during 2010, and then I saw who's now my wife, and we just kind of really hit it off really well at that time, and then we eventually just became boyfriend and girlfriend. She came with back to England with me, or she wanted to go anyways, but she came and we were living together in 2010, 2011 there, and when I was finishing school. And then we decided, hey, let's just move to Mexico together
Yeah.
after finish my studies. So we moved here in Mexico City in 2011, and I've been living here kind of indefinitely since.
Okay.
And we're planning to move up there in the near future because well, my wife's getting her green card, and part of the you know um contingencies with that is you have to live in the US to have your green card. I mean, we
Okay.
want to anyways, but that's also part of the process. So I've had a lot of experience for many years, especially growing up, but now living here more permanently in a way since
Yeah.
2011, knowing the way of life in Mexico more in depth, working here in several types of jobs, the healthcare system, a lot about retirement. And I don't know. I think I have a pretty profound understanding about the people, the culture, the way of life,
Yeah.
and I'm very well networked in this country as well because of the nature of my job. So I'm willing to answer anything you want.
I'm just curious, like with your wife and her parents, you're native of Mexico. Like, if she moves stateside, or her parents can be like, "Man, you're taking our daughter from us." Is that, what I'm saying? It's like that'd be kind of tough, I imagine, or what? What's
Well, her mom passed away a few years ago,
Okay.
so she's unfortunately not with us. Actually, today's her birthday. It's just crazy having that, just realizing that. But
Yeah.
it's her birthday today, June 8th. So her mom passed away some years ago. Her dad loves the U.S. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
he actually has a property there, so he loves the United States, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna come and visit you all the time.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah.
so he's all for it.
Now, is Mexico, when we lived in South Texas, right north of San Antonio, we had neighbors who were from Tampico. And that was on the, over by
Yeah.
the eastern side. And I'll never forget, Devin, that and I might have shared with this before, but they would tell me this is and I don't know if it's still going on, the cartel stuff. They would literally, there'd be like an app that said where to avoid to go to school because the cartels were roadblocking these routes and all this. It was nuts. And they basically moved up, and he was an engineer. It wasn't like he's just some manual laborer, but they just they snuck out of Mexico at Tampico, through Monterey and whatnot to come to San Antonio. And they basically said they were lucky to get out alive. That was wild. That was probably 10 years ago now. Is it still kind of like that out there? And I know you're in Mexico City. It's a big country. I get it. But is there still, or is that kind of overblown in terms of cartels and all the crime and all that? Is that just, I mean, have you dealt with that at all?
No, it's a very pervasive issue, and actually, I think it's gotten a lot worse these last year and a half since I've lived here. There was a report that came out, I think it was a week or two ago, that over 60% of the territory in Mexico is actually controlled by the cartel, meaning that the municipalities, the mayorships, the local parties, most of the territory, you can only get things done through business or whatever else through them. So and what's interesting is that part of the nature of my work, I have to travel throughout Mexico, and pre-COVID I did quite a bit. And I went to Tijuana quite a bit because because I work at a university, and we have a satellite campus in Tijuana, which is amazingly beautiful. It's on the part of Tijuana that's on the beach side, and it's up on a hill, so it has a great view of the beach area and the town and everything else. And Tijuana's divided up, kind of like San Diego in a way, by these terrains and the canyons and everything like that. The neighborhoods are separated like that.
Okay.
So when I would the first time I went to Tijuana, the week before that, we saw this report that said they had like the top 50 most dangerous cities in the world, and number one was Tijuana. It was like Tijuana, and then Acapulco, and then a few other places in Mexico, and then behind all that was like places in Iraq and places in Syria. I was like, what? So those cities in Mexico are ahead of those places? I couldn't believe it. So I went to Tijuana, and it's like, oh my! I mean, and it was very enlightening, that experience. And I went several times for work. I went at least 6 or 7 times. And I mean, the way Mexico works, and a lot of people don't understand, unless you live here and you experience it and you know it. I call it organized chaos, meaning that even on the everyday kind of situations, like the traffic, like there's like no traffic laws, it seems like, and people will literally come up right up to a centimeter to your car before they actually want to stop, or they do these crazy turns or whatever, but it works. People have a different mentality and psychology with how to drive and how to handle things. And so that's just driving, but it's many things. It's like you'll just see a lot of these unexpected sort of tangential things that happen that move everything in what would seem like a flux, but it all works, and people know that and understand that. So, and I've gotten used to that,
right?
But it's taken a lot of time. But yeah, one of people's number one concerns on top of mind each and every day is always security. Always, no matter what, security. And there's a lot of the situation's gotten a lot worse, and they control pretty much everything.
I'm curious, along the organized chaos stuff with the driving, I want to get back to the security stuff, but like a lot of Indians, like, not Native Americans, but Indians are notorious for like skipping in line. Because like, I guess in India, they don't really follow. There's no queue necessarily. Now, obviously that's stereotypical. that's fine. Call me racist. I don't care. Trust me, if you've had waiting in line with a lot of relatively new Indians, they don't get in line. They fall. Do they do that like in Mexico too? Like I'm just the next there's no lines, or they still kind of at least in America where you say get in line and wait. Is that when you say organized chaos? That's the first thing I thought about. Is like no one waits in line. They just whoever's next. You know what I'm saying? Is that?
I mean, in that way, not really. It's a little more organized, I would say. But there's just certain aspects of life. Like if anyone's ever been to Mumbai or Delhi or places like that, like if you watch videos there, you see pictures, you'll see a ton of telephone cables and types of cables on posts that are all over the place, and there's like 10 people on a cart driving around, and there's a similar sentiment of that in those cities as it is in Mexico City, but it just all flows too. That's the ironic thing. It's like, well, it happens and just flows. The one thing that I really do like about the culture down here is that you don't really see hardly ever like people outwardly like angry. Like you don't see people just like someone might smack into each other or cut someone off or whatever, but no one comes out very aggressively, which is I'm really surprised sometimes.
That's interesting.
It's just a really different flow and way of life. But and people don't come out and really just go after you for anything. Like,
is there along the crime thing, like I'm from Maine originally, but from in my formative years, I guess, we're DC area, and DC back in the day was probably as nowadays too. Certain sections of Washington DC that are horrifically criminal. You know what I'm saying? Same like Chicago. But in America as a whole, if you avoid these certain South Fulton County in Atlanta, if you avoid that, you're fine. You know what I'm saying? The crime is sad, but it's in these local areas, and that's it. Is that the same thing in Mexico, or is it just everywhere it's random? What do you think about that?
I mean, I would compare Mexico City a lot to LA in a way.
Okay.
Like because of the pockets of issues that happen in certain areas, like you're saying. Because if you go down to Venice Beach right now in LA, it's full of camps and whatever else. But it's like that in Mexico City anyway. It's very divided into what they call boroughs or delegations. And there will be like a heavy presence of crime and violence, like each and every second, pretty much. And then other ones, thankfully where I am, and I'm grateful for it, it's not so much like that. But there are still a lot of people who get attacked on. You don't see a lot of people like in areas where I live get killed per se, but you see them get the petty
robbery, exactly.
Robbery, and they won't actually stab you. They'll just like throw a gun or knife like near you and say, "Give me all this now," and go away. But there are there's always bad actors that'll slip on something, and someone does lose it, unfortunately. But I honestly I've never had a problem myself here ever, which I thankfully again that's never happened, but I'm just surprised too, because I've heard stories week after week with people I know, and something happens, but fortunately I've never encountered anything. I've run into certain things with police, but they always want something from you, because and then it's kind of sad when that happens. But I haven't gotten pulled over for being, doing something nefarious or anything. It's just like, oh, this thing with your car, and then, hey, how much you got there, buddy? No. So
how about you're obviously you're a white guy. Racism towards you? Well, light hair, light skin, no anti-white racism, gringo stuff towards you at all?
No, never. And it scares me a little bit with what I see going on back stateside. A lot of this just huge polarization of social issues, and it's really, in a way, it kind of focused in where we want to go. Like if we plan to move there, because at the beginning we were thinking in places like Bellingham, and we're thinking about Salem, Oregon, and stuff like that. And that was on our top of list, and we've changed our mind.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this
So I'm just I just for me it's a little bit saddening to see some of those issues going on up there now, and it's very dehumanizing and devaluing of human life, I feel, and it's
has
time
there
to move.
ever been anyone in Mexico ever that says, call me a Latinx, or whatever they call it? You know what I'm saying? This whole thing with like, we're going to call our Latinos and Latin Americans Latinx. Have you heard this? Latinx is stupid, man. I was like, I don't know one freaking Latino, Hispanic, whatever Spanish speaker that wants to be called Latinx. It's just the woke stuff, Devin, gone crazy.
Yeah.
It
No,
can't
never.
be that bad down there, right? It can't be woke crap all the time down there, is it?
No, never.
Ugh.
I mean, people here, like honestly, people here are only worried about two main things, like working. I
Yeah,
mean, people work hard down here. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah,
People work their tails off.
yeah.
They're only focused on their work. The people here are very family oriented.
Right,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and people are really faith based. I mean, like
yeah,
religious people. That's all that matters. I mean, all
yeah,
this, and also, Mexico traditionally is a very, let's say, masculine country. Like
yeah,
it has
right.
it's in it, and with the language, with Spanish, you can't just there's already different tenses and different ways to describe a person in a certain tense and this and that, and there's like 6 and 7 variations of that, so there's not so adding anything else or wanting to do anything else would just be utterly
People just
chaos.
laugh. Kim says, and you speak Spanish, right?
See,
Okay, all right. So that means yes, Kim. That means yes.
Kim.
Yeah. I have a hard thinking that the woke crap would go. Did you see the USA Mexico, I guess, soccer game they played down there where the Mexicans were just it was awesome, not gonna lie to you. They not politically correct, Devin, the Mexican fans, which is pretty freaking cool, if you ask me.
No one wants to be. I mean, no, that doesn't fly down here.
I know it's such a breath of fresh air. I was like, man, I would have rooted for Mexico over USA in 2 seconds flat if I knew the Mexicans would be like that, because it was such a breath of fresh air to have people just saying, oh my god, it just makes me so happy. Yeah,
it's hard to describe this, but a lot of people down here have a different way of relating with people, have a different way of really engaging with people. A lot of people really look each other in the eye.
Yeah.
A lot, and traditionally, especially pre-COVID, people hug you and want to like kiss your cheek and this and that. I mean, there's a very communal kind of like engagement with each and every person, and in a certain level of respect, like on just a very ordinary basis. So, I mean, all those topics and themes just don't. It doesn't stick to this kind of culture down here. It's just like people see people as people, and that's it. I mean, obviously there is a history of colonialization and things like that down here, but here in our modern day, in our modern era, I mean, people down here are not subjugating themselves to centuries old history, recognizing it for what it is, which is important, but they're not like creating like a neo segregation or neo racist or whatever it is, and people are just working. I mean, for people down here, it's just like working hard, providing for the family, getting together on the weekends, going to church. That's it. I mean, there's not time for anything else,
So how did the cartels get so powerful, though? I mean, you have such a faith-based family organization, and then the cartels take over 60% of the country. How did that happen? I mean, what? I mean, I get the drug war. I've said many times it's horrific, but man, how did it? The PRI just allowed this to. What happened? I mean, this is nuts. You know what I'm saying?
I think. Honestly, I think like everything that drives everything in the world and always has, it's always money.
Yeah.
Always. So basically, just a really pithy history about it. Like when there was the vacuum after the Colombia issue, some years ago, decades ago, whenever it was, and then the FARC issue kind of dissipated. There were some members of that infiltrated and got into Mexico through different connections. I think it really kind of precipitated more during the 90s when it was just kind of getting its ground, but making those connections and then reestablishing themselves then started to grow slowly but surely over time to fill that vacuum after the Colombia, situation that was taking over forever. So they needed to reestablish. There were certain people that came in and infiltrated. They saw very fertile land, especially in the north, and easy access to get across the border.
Yeah.
And just took off from there, But the thing is, again, this is all a cultural thing. Like people think, oh, it's outside of Mexico, oh, the narco's so bad. Da, da, da. Not if you go to these towns. If you go to a lot of the states in the north, I mean, these narcos, like they did during the Pablo Escobar times, they provide hospitals, they provide schools, they create a culture around their brands. It's about, they're really good brand marketers and branders, to be honest. And they know, and they get, very close to the community and, this and that. And they just gain tremendous ground. So
100%,
it's always it's all these issues are always economics. So if you're going to ask someone in these northern states who are making less than $4 or $5 a day,
right,
whatever it is, hey, you want to continue doing that $4 or $5 job, or do you want to get $120 and do this for me? I mean, it's all economics. No, nothing more than that.
Yeah, and it's the funny thing is, the Colombian, the FARC was broken. You know what I'm saying? And now Colombia. I know there's some issues there, but still, Colombia is a thriving country now, and it's just a whack-a-mole. I mean, the opportunity that exists in this is always going to be in Colombia, Mexico, Venezuela, and the United States as a whole. It's just crazy.
It will always be somewhere. It was. I mean, there's economics drives so much of everything that happens. I mean, look at what in your state of Georgia when the All-Star game left, and who was siding with who in that time. I mean, it comes down to economics.
All the time. It's crazy. And then of course, if the cartel is going to keep your family safe, provide you, it's no different than the Taliban in Afghanistan and these various things. It is what it is, man.
And I'll tell you, Josh, the one city that has worse traffic than Mexico City and LA is Bogota, Colombia. I went there for a wedding. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. It was just utter chaos. I was just like, we were at gridlock. I'll tell you a really quick story. So first of all, I rented a car. It ended up being a ghost rental place. They had no stand or anything, and I had to call some number. They sent some guy down, and I said, "Hey, how am I going to pay for this car?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't use credit cards here. You gotta use this fake sort of debit card thing that they manufacture for you. And use this, call your bank, have them put money on that thing, and then pay us, and then sign 9 documents." I was like, what is this thing? I was there so frustrated with my wife, and we were there 2 hours, and then we get out. The airport's supposed to be the hotel's supposed to be 5 miles away. We're at gridlock for almost 2 hours to go 5 miles. And you're stuck and you don't know why you're stuck. And then all of a sudden they have a motorcycle culture because the people know that the traffic is absolutely horrendous in Bogota. So everyone has a motorcycle.
Right.
So people are gridlocking their car, but then just hundreds of motorcycles are going in between both cars, and you're freaked out of your mind because you hear zoom, 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 and you think they're gonna clip your mirror or something. Oh, jeez. Don't go to Bogota if you can, unless you really have to for some reason.
Medellin, I hear, is the cosmopolitan place of the 21st century. We're in the 21st century, so apparently Medellin is where it's at now. So we'll see. That
a lot of music, all the major reggaeton and this Latin music that's really popular coming like that music. It's all coming out of the record labels from Medellin. So
that's crazy, man.
And getting really expensive.
Yeah. 20 years ago, I mean, it's sad because Venezuela used to be the most wealthiest country in all of Latin America. Colombia was the basket case, and now 20 years later, it's just all politics. It's all politics.
my wife has family who moved to Venezuela some years ago. Like I think in the early 2000s they moved there.
Oh,
And so now most of them have moved back to Mexico, but there's still some there. And it's just, I mean, I don't know if you can imagine going 2 months without buying toilet
guys,
paper. Yeah, I just
or chicken. Just try to buy a chicken. There ain't none to
well,
be had.
well, they live right outside of Caracas, and
Oh,
I guess the thing is Caracas has become a very violent ridden
yeah,
city.
no, big time. Yep.
So but the thing is, it's again, like you say in your videos all the time, inflation is due to a contraction of supply,
Yeah.
right?
All the
So
time.
that's what they're facing is
Yep.
just like if you have no products coming in. And the thing in the one of the most horrible things is that their president was talking about some sort of issue to the media about, and which is all controlled by them, by the way,
Yeah, right.
talking to them about the people starving in the street
Right,
and there's no
right.
food. And then he says something. And then a couple seconds later, when he thought the cameras were off, from his jacket pocket, he pulls out an empanada and he eats it. Like an empanada is like this little bread thing. But why would you have an empanada in your pocket? I mean, it's like putting a slice of pizza there or something. I was just, what's he doing? Just, I mean, the thing is, because look, Josh, I've lived most of my adult life, like as I went to England, now I'm here outside of the United States. So I've been always watching the US almost
Yeah,
purely from living outside. And when it really breaks my heart, to be
yeah.
honest, when I see people right now, especially who live in the US, hate the country so much. And I'm like, hey, you know what? The system you want, I know
Right,
I have, family around me that lives in a system like that,
right.
and it's in South America. You should go there and try it out. I mean, why not? If you hate, that's what I don't get about the mentality. Is like if you hate something so much,
Just leave. It's
yeah,
crazy.
I don't get.
Why stay? It's
I
nuts,
don't know.
especially when even Bernie Sanders was down there telling Chavez that this is the way of the future. I'm like, just go then.
Well,
Did
and
you,
Sean Penn too. Sean
yeah,
Penn.
freaking scumbags. Did you see the going to see my man Ross is he's from PEI in Canada, and they had this is in Alberta, but Jason Kenney is a prime minister of Alberta. Basically, everyone's locked down, the whole thing, and then he was on. I don't know if you saw this or not, Devin, but he was on like the 14th floor or some. I saw. I don't know if you watched Viva Frey.
Yeah,
He's
yeah. With Barnes, he's on with Barnes.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
show this guy like eating freaking basically top shelf dinner on the 14th terrace on a balcony someplace without masks on, all just drinking. I don't know what the hell the rich people drink. I don't know what it is, but basically eating caviar. I was like, this is just like Maduro. It's just like Lenin. It's just like Chavez. It's just like freaking Castro. It's the whole thing over and over and over. Yeah, Premier Alberta is right, Ross. Jason Kinney is his name, and he would be their version of the Republican, if my memory serves. I was just like these guys. Anyway,
Well, I see that here in certain aspects and pockets in general, but I think in the end of the day, it always comes down. What we're facing right now, and in the times that we're living, I believe, is really this dichotomy between
oh
authoritarianism and
yeah, yeah,
libertarianism.
yeah,
Nothing more. It's just a power grab,
yeah,
And the thing is, there are these people that want to tell you what to do and how to live your life and watch your every move. I mean, if you basically just see what's going on, in China and see where that could happen in the rest of the world,
yeah,
that's the model that some countries are looking for, and it's really disheartening. And I just hope that this side of the world doesn't go that way. I mean, there's some countries on this side of the world that are that way, and in the end of the day, like here in Mexico, when we were facing this situation last year,
yeah,
like for the first few weeks, people were like, okay, well, we got to take it seriously because Mexico has a really high diabetes issue,
yeah,
has a morbidity, obese issues, etc. There's a lot of underlying health issues that exist here. So people are really taking the doctor's word seriously and saying, okay, we got to pay attention to this. I don't want my family to contract this, etc. But after a certain amount of weeks, people were like, "Hey, I got to get to my job,
Yeah.
or I can't feed my 5
Right.
kids." The
Right.
thing is, the socioeconomic disparity in Mexico is so different than many other countries, and you have a lot more people that don't make hardly anything, and they have a lot of children, and so paying rent, paying
Right.
bills, buying food, taking this and this and this. I mean, and people here, like especially on the periphery of this city, Mexico City, where the majority live, they got to travel hours to come into the city and work. So, back and forth is what I mean. So the thing is, people after a certain amount of weeks of this saying, "Hey, I got no liquid money coming in, and I got to feed these
Yeah.
3 or 4 kids, and I'm a
Right.
single mother. There's no way I can just. I'll take the precautions in public, but I got to feed these kids. So, I would say like here, people are more, with the mentality like, okay, I'll do my best and do whatever the government's saying to have the protocols in place
Right.
to not get the infection or affect
Right.
someone else. But I got to work, or
Right.
we're not
Right.
going to eat tomorrow. And there's a
That's,
lot of small businesses here. I mean, over 2 million they estimate since last year have had to close, unfortunately. And that's a big problem in Mexico.
well,
That's,
especially Mexico. It's already a poor country. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
like you can't. Yeah, that's nuts.
Well, but the thing is, like, I, I would say, like, I saw you see police and military around and this and that, but in the end of the day, a lot of these police and military and everyone else are from the types of families from like the muchacha and the waiter and whoever else who has to go
yeah,
into these places and work. So I
yeah,
mean, no, who's gonna really go after someone who needs to provide for their family, pay the rent? Who's gonna like stop them if there's no others? That's it. I mean, people in a way as well, like I mentioned before, want and always have a desire to work is like
it's
number
ingrained.
one in their
Yeah,
head,
yeah.
so you can't just, I mean, people
Is there seatbelt laws in Mexico?
uh I would say there's almost no laws in Mexico.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you.
I
And
mean,
I guess, and
you
people are still smoking in restaurants every now and again. I imagine. I don't smoke, and I imagine you don't
um
smoke. But
outside, I mean, they're more strict on that.
okay,
Like, yeah, you have to smoke either in a designated area or
okay.
outside. Yeah,
But no
and
one's.
mhm.
There's a lot of. Let's just put it this way: a lot of the regulations that govern America are not governing Mexicans on a daily basis. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot more of a. I hate to say Wild West because it seems like it's a shootout, but basically it's a do your own thing, let me do my own thing, more mentality down there than up here where everyone's in your business kind of thing. You see what I'm saying, Devin?
People are a lot more, I would say, generally libertarian here because
Yes. Yeah.
because people respect each other's way of living. People
Yeah.
want to only have time really to dedicate to their own family, their own community. And you have to understand here too, people have large families, so
Yeah.
you can't pay attention to almost anything or anyone else.
Yeah, man. That
It's
that's
yeah,
that is a great. I never thought about it like that. When
but
you have a
people
large
also,
family, you can't be in
yeah.
the business of other people because you're like, man, I got my man. That's a great. I never. That's a great point, man. You know what I'm saying, Devin? That's a great point.
I mean, if I and they just and everything is like the tradition is huge here. I mean,
Yeah.
every month there's like a new thing to celebrate and a
Yeah.
new type of, I mean, food is such a big thing down here. I mean, and there's a new type of food or a dessert to accompany
Yeah.
that thing. So, but in it, so like la rosca, pan de muerto, uh what is it, bacalao, I don't know, there's just like there's always something to celebrate,
Yeah.
people
See,
want to
yeah,
celebrate,
I
and there's
love it.
always this unique food around the celebration. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know, people really, honestly, people just, they really work hard, they want to enjoy their life,
Yeah.
and they don't want anything else. It's just, I it's just, I really encourage people. I really encourage people that, especially in a, again, this is disheartens me because a lot of people that hate the states and live there, I'm like, go live somewhere else for a little
Yeah.
while and
Yeah.
travel and see it. Like
Yeah.
actually, I'll tell you something really briefly. Like when I first moved to England, again, I had that first encounter with my now wife and the in-laws, and that was a mess. Not drinking water, and the next day I flew and I was in England. I was in Oxford, and the day I arrived there, Oxford is like a small town, and then there's only one main street that is like a thread throughout the whole town, and you can only go on that main street to get to other places. And you cross a bridge to get to the main part of the university where it starts. That day when I arrived, it was in 2003. There were protests against the Iraq war, and they were burning effigies of Bush. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm gonna get killed. They're gonna hang me. It's just like, oh my goodness. I was just, but I would say too. Also, something just occurred to me, Josh. There's a lot of people in Mexico who have families in the U.S. A lot of people. A lot. So, the thing is, like, I mean, I know so many people here, and of all the people I've spoken to in all these years, maybe I have had less than 5 people give me an anti-American sentiment.
Right.
But that's it. Everyone, because people love the States.
Right.
A lot of people love to travel there and go to vacation. A lot of people have family like in Dallas and Houston and many parts of California, Wichita, Kansas, Chicago. I mean, it's just there's
you get more anti-American hate in the States than you do in Mexico.
Yeah, there's like zero here. I mean, as far as I've experienced and as far as I know my network and a lot of what I read and just everything, like there's nothing like that. I mean, look, the reason too a lot of people like from Latin America go to the U.S. is, again, economics. We always
to work. They come in to bust. I've never understood, Devin, this thing about the lazy Mexican. I said, I've never met a lazy Mexican. I'm sure there's some out there, but I've never you think, this whole, I don't know what the stereotype comes from, but I've never met a lazy Mexican. Every Mexican I've ever met is a freaking hardworking mofo. Let me put it to you like that. And that's Guatemalans, hardworking. Freaking Hondurans, hard work. I've never met a lazy, south of the border guy that comes here is just trying to get on welfare. That's for sure. I don't. That doesn't. At least, let's put it this way. I'll take 1 million Mexicans any day of the week over all the grads from Harvard in 2 seconds flat. You know what I'm saying? And I guarantee we'll be 10 times better with 1 million Mexicans than all those grads from Harvard in 20 years. Guarantee.
And the thing is, the other thing, Josh, is like in Mexico and certain parts of Central America and South America, you have to understand that some of these people, like, there's no retirement, let's say, retirement in the way we think of it in the U.S. When the grandma and grandpa finish and go live in a community. They stay with their kids most of the time. And what happens is sometimes is that for certain medicines and certain things they need to pay for their elderly expenses, one of those kids might go to the U.S. to then send money back to someone here or El Salvador or Guatemala to pay for their parents' medicine, okay? Because there is a 2-tier kind of healthcare community, okay? There's the public and the private. And if you are a private insurer looking to get into business down here, and you started at least 6 years ago, you're probably making bank. I know someone.
But what do you mean? If you're, tell me what you mean. I'm not
because
sure.
the whole idea of insurance in general, not just health, but all types of insurance, but especially like healthcare and let's say life insurance and all this, it's becoming little by little an actual concept here. It really wasn't before. There really wasn't a market or an industry for it, but lots of companies started to come in. Allianz is here. There's MetLife is huge here. I mean, there's just more and more coming all the time, but they are starting to make ground and make money. I mean, because they're entering into a newer quote unquote market. And they offer certain healthcare packages as well to employers and even privately that are really, really affordable. Like there was, for example, I work for my employer now pays for my healthcare. But before that, I was working for a U.S. based company remotely out of New York. And I had to get my own insurance here because they didn't cover it. So I went to who was it? I think it was AIG.
Yeah.
And I sat down with the guy and he explained to me what it would cover and, my deductible and things like that. And I was shocked. It was just so affordable. I mean, I was paying like a yearly, like I think it was like around 1,800, but and it would cover really the catastrophic things, which is the most important. But
Yeah, exactly.
man, it was affordable. And I had I actually I made a dumb mistake one time because I was going to through a parking lot to the grocery store, and they have one of these like arrow things that goes up and down,
Yeah.
like for the cars come out. And I was talking to my wife, I wasn't paying attention. The arrow thing came down and smacked me in the chest, and I broke like 2 ribs or fractured them.
Are you kidding me?
It was horrible. But in my policy and just getting that private insurance, it covered everything. I was shocked. I was like, it
There's
covered.
no problem seeing a doctor and everything. That was, you know what I'm saying?
See, there are so many doctors here. You have no idea. It's just
Really?
insane. And they're all so affordable. Even just paying out of pocket is just like, I mean, like
These aren't Dr. Riviera from Simpsons. These are real live doctors who you don't have to talk about Dr. Nick Riviera from Simpsons.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not like that guy.
But most of the doctors here actually study in the U.S. John Hopkins, MIT, some place. Like most of the ones at the private hospitals here have studied somewhere in the United States.
They're legit, and you able to see
and they speak English. And the thing is you don't want to not have that kind of insurance because
totally.
I live right now like 3 blocks away from like a major public hospital, and there are literally people camped outside of the main entranceway just to get an appointment that can take up to 5 days.
And that's the public. That's not the private.
The public. No, the public.
Yeah.
The public. So the problem is with the public system here is that you have to literally wait in a sort of line. And people understand that if you get out of that position, and it's free, but if you get out of that position, then you're SOL.
Yeah.
And so people will literally camp here.
Yeah.
And you'll see these people just with their sleeping bags and their food things and, et cetera. And they're like just camping outside the door. And I feel
you have the private, you don't have to do all that. The private just don't, but you schedule
call them, you're there, you're in and out in 10 minutes, 15
And that's what you had when you had the broken ribs.
Yeah. I mean,
that's crazy.
And when people the thing is when people like down here in Mexico, I have my own accountant who's from here and knows how to deal with their version of the IRS, which is very complicated in Mexico, to be honest. I have my own version of like my own accountant here. People in Mexico are so entrepreneurial. They think there's this there's so many creative people down here and ways of thinking that they go about with business and social issues, just incredible. And a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur started his legal practice, but he's like a middleman. He uses AI and a platform and some really sophisticated incorporation of technology where anyone who has any legal issue can go on that platform and say, hey, I want to know, I want to have this issue solved for me with a will or a trust or, a health-related legal issue, et cetera, et cetera. And that AI matches them with the appropriate lawyer in Mexico City or throughout the country. And they have this kind of consultation, however they do it, with a paper already done or a telephone conversation or whatever, and they get it solved. But because I know this guy personally, I call him directly and say, hey, I want this done and give me the best guy. So, but the reason I'm bringing that up is because anyone who's foreign and needs a legal issue done, even a financial related thing done, services like that are so beneficial. So, for example, if someone comes and wants to retire here and go to San Miguel de Allende or Guanajuato or Acapulco or Puerto Vallarta or one of these places that's popular for retirees, if they can get a good accountant who understands the Mexican legal system and financial apparatus, right? A good lawyer, who can do the same, and as well can help them understand how their healthcare situation can apply well
Yeah.
in their circumstance here in Mexico. I mean, they're golden, I think, depending on the nature of how they receive their income as well in retirement. But also the consulate in Mexico really helps you. They sent me a long time ago like a list of these people I could
Oh,
choose from.
right.
I was like, hey, thanks guys, and I found one, and luckily she's been my accountant forever. So, and she lives in one of these beautiful towns like San Miguel de Allende, and she knows both the Mexican side
Right.
and the US side of filing. And you got to get someone like that if you live in a
Oh, yeah.
country like this. It
So,
makes all the difference.
Devin, Kim, she says because you're in Mexico City, you might have a different perspective in terms of the healthcare and stuff. Do you think there's some truth to that, or what do you think? I mean, is that if you were in Tampico, would they have the same structure of private and public, where you would get a good doc who could fix right up, or what? Just what do you think on that? Does that make sense? What I'm asking.
There's only one medicine in those other parts of the country. It's called tequila. You don't need anything else. No, but in all seriousness, I would look. In Mexico, they call the major developed areas the triangle. You have Monterrey, you have Mexico City, and then you have Guadalajara. Those three
Okay.
cities like have all of the infrastructure
Okay.
of like a more modern
Okay.
developed city. But I would say, especially in areas that are more touristy, like let's say the Cancun areas, Acapulco, San Miguel de Allende, Puerto Vallarta, place like that, there's more and more of these sort of accessory things that help really with the insurance and everything else. Absolutely.
You have more doctors and stuff because there's more tours down there. Is more
big business. Business.
Right.
But on the same token, unfortunately, a lot of the southern regions of Mexico, we're talking Oaxaca, Guerrero, Chiapas, stuff like that.
Yeah, Chiapas.
It's so destitute in a remote way that there's just nothing there.
Right. No, understood.
But at the same time, what's interesting is like in Chiapas, you can meet people there who are over 100 years old. I mean, they have a whole different, they're very immersed in nature. They're very immersed in their own communal ways of doing things, their work, their life. And they eat, I mean, sometimes chile, people understand this. And some scientists also did this study in India a while ago. There's components of chile that are really good for your blood and your heart that can really give you longevity for your overall health as long as you maintain, good health. But a lot of people have use those same similar types of chiles in areas like Chiapas, and I mean these people live forever. It's crazy.
So on the more, because I don't know, if you move to Mexico, the last that you'd want to go in my opinion, you'd want to go more to where I don't know, you don't want to just go to white person from America down there. You want to go to the more of the regular Mexican place. You know what I'm saying? So. Like, I don't know. It seems to me like I wouldn't want to just go to. I've never been to Mexico other than quickly to Tijuana, and then the one place south of Tucson. I forgot what it was. But other than that, like, why would you want to move to it? I'm just thinking out loud, to the place where all the other people from America retire to. That seems boring to me. But I don't know. I'm saying that out loud. It seems like you'd want to go to a different place. Go ahead.
Well, just answer that really quickly, Josh. It would depend on, again, what you're looking for. Like if I would say if you want to move to Mexico and really have the best of both worlds, like I do, it would definitely be advantageous to speak some Spanish.
Absolutely.
Because look, for me personally, I don't like the expat community. Because and I've met several groups of expats like in Mexico, and I get so bored. It's just like, because it's like, let's go eat at Applebee's, and let's go like what, and talk about very mundane things, and it's always the same thing with these expat communities. It's so boring, and I'm just like, there's some good, people, but the thing is, I would say, like, for me personally, I love the beach, and so I would love for me, I don't know about my wife yet. I would have to ask her, but for me, ideally, it would be a perfect situation, hopefully, between having something established in the States and something established here. And for me, I would love, because we love going to Acapulco. Like, it's just a beautiful place. And I would love just to be on the beachfront in Acapulco. And that I know that they have all the, everything they accommodate insurance wise.
Yeah.
They have pretty good security there, even though it's quite dangerous in general in Guerrero. Uh, they just have great food. I mean, I'm part of the reason why I just love being anchored here is because of the food, So it's just you can't beat the food. It's just, I mean, here in Mexico City, on average, all year it's about between 70 and 75 degrees.
Because it's up high, right? It's up in the highlands.
It's like Denver, sort of.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Really high.
Yeah.
But we have great weather, but we also have all the food you can imagine and amazing ingredients. So I would say people, it really helps if you do like Mexican culture in general. I wouldn't just come because, oh yeah, I used to go to Carlos and Charlie's or some restaurant in your local town and then like, oh yeah, I love Mexico. No, you should come and visit and see like what it really means to you. The thing is, I've been coming here all my life, so it's more immersed in me for many reasons. And that makes a difference. But cost of living, look, Mexico City is getting more and more expensive for renting and buying, especially is just outrageous. But I would say food is very affordable. Absolutely.
Are there suburbs like I'm in a suburb of Atlanta proper? Are there like suburbs of Mexico City that you know what I'm saying? You don't even need to go into the city itself because everything's right in the suburb or something like that, or
there's not there's an old what they call Centro Historico. That's where the main, if you watch sometimes some filmings of Mexico City, like with the president, things like that, there's this square called the Zocalo, and that's where the presidential palace is. That's where a very, very old cathedral is and a lot of government buildings. But that's the old center. It's grown so much and so vastly over the decades that there's not really a quote unquote downtown anymore. Everything's divided by what they call delegations, and each delegation has like a very unique, aspect to it. I'm close to what's referred to as the World Trade Center building. It's a big blue building that's known on its pictures of Mexico City. And what's nice about this area where we are, it's easy, it has good, easy access to all other parts of the city, getting to the north, the south, the airport. And it's really great area to be in, And
this guy says FBI reports that the murder rate in New Orleans is declining, but it's still nearly 4 times higher than Mexico and 5 times higher than Mexico City. And I just
the thing is, there's no guns here, Josh. Like you can't own a gun in Mexico. I think in all of Mexico it's illegal. There are guns out there, but you can't. There's no gun shops. Right. You can't go buy a gun. Nothing like that. So
that's a problem. But that would be for me. I'd be like, but
no, for sure, I get that, because the thing is, you don't want to be in a situation where someone is, like I said before, going to come and rob you, and you have nothing to defend yourself.
And they know you don't. That's the scary thing.
They know you don't, and that's why actually. You won't see as many homicides here.
Yes, exactly.
But you'll see kidnappings.
Yes,
that's you know why you see kidnappings is because, again, the people know that you can't be, you can't really defend yourself, and so they'll pick you up in a van, and extortion happens,
and you're going to pay up. Do you have to have ivermectin? Have you ever heard of ivermectin? It's a new thing now that's like fighting COVID and all that. I don't want to say too much. I don't want YouTube to ban me. But do you have to have, I'm just using that for example, do you have to get a prescription for various prescription drugs down there, or are they over the counter? What's your thought on that?
Oh, yeah. You always have to get a prescription from a doctor. Yeah. What's interesting, you see, the pharmacy businesses are huge here. Yeah. Like we have it's called Ahorro 24, and there's like a pharmacy store on like every other corner and I don't know if that's because of the underlying issues health wise here in Mexico or why is that, but it seems to me to be very big business one way or the other.
No, I'm
But the thing
sure.
is, but the thing is, I mean, Mexico does do a lot of those kind of things very legitly. Like you got to go and get a prescription. The doctor's got to sign off, and they got to check. They even run it through a light thing sometimes in some of these stores and see if it's authentic, the signature and everything.
Okay.
And sometimes they actually call the doctor. That happened to me a couple
Okay.
times,
Yeah.
No, it's very legit in that way.
Well, why is the obesity taking over Mexico? Just same thing as here, just eating crap? Is that what's going on?
Coca-Cola. I mean, you Coca-Cola is just a I mean, it's every type of event or every type of gathering or wherever you go.
Really?
Coke is drank on everything. So I'm not blaming just Coke, but I mean I
Oh,
I know Coke is drink a lot here, and it's just
dude, that's freaking crazy, man. Because that's some evil. I mean, that's evil because it's killing people. No, I mean that's what I'm saying. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's bad. Huh.
But just to align that a little bit, and not to blame it all on Coke, but I
Right.
mean, in general, I would say, I mean, the food is absolutely delicious here, but
Yeah.
at the same time, there's so many snacky kind of foods that will lead to cholesterol
Oh yeah.
issues, diabetes related issues, several health issues. And actually the government's been doing a bigger and bigger campaign over the last years to try to curb that, and putting more labels on types of foods, and you see more kind of organic shops as well. You see more people pushing kind of healthier foods, and my wife likes that a lot, actually.
That Coca-Cola, I mean, I'm not just blaming Coke. I mean, sugar drinks as a whole. I mean, that's I mean, I guarantee if you put a study into consumption and obesity is one. I mean, literally, it's because it's just so bad. You know what I'm saying? It's so bad, and oh, that's too bad.
But it's a big part of the, again, some of these things get really incorporated in part of the actual culture of the society. So I mean, Coke ran really amazing campaigns, especially in the '90s, and got really people hooked on wanting to drink Coke at that time. And actually, what's interesting is, I mean, again, it's always about narrative and first to market and things like that. But also the reason as well that people, for example, like as you relate to maybe football, why a lot of people like the Cowboys more than any other team in Mexico is because one of the major network televisions here, Televisa, when they first aired the first NFL game in Mexico, it was with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And they stayed on the Cowboys for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And so there's just generations and generations of people that like, they love the NFL is huge in Mexico. It's just
well, they were
so
thinking about
popular.
putting a team in Monterrey a few years back. Remember that?
Yeah. And for baseball, for both football and for baseball. So
they should move the Tampa Bay Devil Rays to Monterey. They'll draw more people, guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah,
I remember that about 10 years ago, they thought about putting an NFL team in Monterey, and then the whole cartel thing blew up, and that kind of got nipped. But I bet that comes back, man, because Monterey is booming, isn't it?
Oh, but they got a big cartel issue, but yeah, they have a pretty good economy in general as well simultaneously.
That's the thing is, I mean, look, I'm not making an excuse for the cartel, but just because there's a big cartel doesn't mean everyone's getting murdered in the street. I mean,
no.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I mean, there's presence of them in even where I live, So I mean, they haven't come after me. So, but at the same time, what I wanted to say about also, as far as culture and entertainment, because another idea that came to mind I thought would be interesting, is that like Mexico thrives on entertainment here.
Yes.
Like a good example of this is music.
Yeah.
If you listen, I've seen so many bands there, you have no idea. Like when Aerosmith comes here, when Judas Priest comes here, when Billy Joel, who was actually, I saw him the week before COVID was declared a pandemic. The Who, whoever, Springsteen, like every time they interview these bands, these groups, they say, "What are your most favorite places to play?" And they almost always say Mexico, especially Mexico City. Like this, people here culturally and with music, just love music. We have like, I think over 80 or 90 venues of just really good music venues,
And
and it's
Mexican music
crazy.
is so many. Oh man, like you guys got so many different types of Mexican music that is freaking. Some of it I can't stand, just like country music. Some country music I can't stand, but some I just love. But some of that Mexican music, not just the mariachi stuff, but like what the Los Lobos plays and Los Super Seven and stuff. Just oh my god, it's like a combination of like almost like banjos and fiddles. I just love it.
There are some really, really good Mexican rock bands. I mean, really good. And I have a friend actually who worked in the music industry for a while, and he's just a music nut, and he showed me all these records that he was a part of,
Yeah.
doing this thing for the A&R, this thing. I mean, I was just like in heaven listening to this guy.
Yeah.
And actually it's funny because in my area some of these musicians live just really, really close to where when I've taken my dog to Petco to get a cleaning or buy something for her, I've seen some of these musicians in these places. So I saw one guy from the lead singer from a group called Cafe Tacuba, who's really famous here in Mexico. And I've seen him 3 times in total, twice in Petco and once in another area close to here. And it's funny because I saw him and he must be annoyed because I always come up to him and say, "Hey, I want a picture." And he's just like, and he's always wearing pink underwear. I'm like, "What are you doing, man? I'll buy you some underwear." And I said, but he's always wearing pink underwear. I'm like, and he, I don't know what that's about. And then another one of these singers, I saw him. He's the lead singer from a band called Molotov, really good rock band. And I saw him at the grocery store twice, just a couple years ago. And he's just getting his milk and really cool guy. And I'm like, "Hey man, love your music." And I said it to him in English, and he's like, "Rock on, man," blah, 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 And they have a song here in Spanish is called a very famous song. It's called "Puto," and that means like gay, right? But the thing is in Spanish,
I thought
especially
Marycomb. I thought that meant gay. You know what I'm saying? No?
it's both.
Okay.
It's both. But they in Spanish, especially in Mexico, they always use double meaning and they play with the words, make a lot of jokes, and I don't know if your viewers are inclined to listen to that song, but they scream the word "puto," and this is a really rocky song. And you go to all the soccer games and you go to various types of events, and they're singing "puto, puto." It's just unbelievable.
It's freaking awesome. I mean, that's what I said to start this. When the U.S. was playing Mexico, the Mexicans are all booing, Kamala Harris or whatever. They're all saying, let's just put it this way, non-PC stuff to the Americans. I said, oh, this reminds me so much of people in Maine because they don't give a rat's ass. They're like, we're going to say who we want to say. We don't care.
This is the anti-PC culture down here.
Yes. Hey, where's your dog, by the way? Valentina? Yeah, is she right there?
Let me bring her. Hold on.
All right, right on. All right. So Dustin, I keep calling him Dustin. I keep thinking it's Dustin from Dustin Tibbetts, my man, but it's not. It's anyway. So that's let's see here. We got some questions on here. Is Devin is still a U.S. resident? Julia, his wife, is getting her green card to come to States. And it sounds like what he's going to do is they're going to kind of go back and forth between the good old US of A and then Mexico. And there's all right, hold on. Let me get mine. Come here, Pablo. You're not going to make a mess. Come on, buddy. There we go. There we go. Hello, gorgeous.
Valentina.
Because
we got her on Valentine's Day, which is my birthday. And she was under a car. She was an abandoned dog. And one of the people in the park said, "Hey, there's a dog under there." And my wife's aunt picked her up and brought her. "Oh, there's Pablo."
Yeah.
Say hi. Say hi.
Pablo doesn't see well. Finney does, though. And Finney, as I showed you before, just for the viewing audience, Finney was here. Hold on. Oh, look at that. Look at the other way. Oh, Finney. Good times. Good times. Someone said, has your wife seen the mess yet? I said, yes, she has. And my wife said, oh, look at Valentina give you big licks. Oh, so cute.
Yeah, she's getting a little jealous, I think.
Yes, she goes, oh, Pablo started take oh, look.
Yeah, she's a lover. She's a lover. That's for sure.
Do you ever show? Oh, speaking of which, so here's Devon's YouTube channel, by the way, guys. Before I forget, so do me a favor and subscribe because the more subscribers is called Spirit Lift right here, and we'll go to his videos. So he's got like 1,200 subscribers, 1,220 subscribers. Devin, oh wait, I didn't share that. Hold on. Oh wait, can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. What are you? What's your channel focused on?
So just to let your viewing audience know, and thank you very much, Josh, for sharing it. So last year when the WHO declared COVID a pandemic, especially at the beginning, it was just at that time like a very uncertain way of seeing that and knowing what's going to happen and how bad it would be and this and that. It was just a weird time, especially like between March and the beginning of April. It was just everyone was really freaking out, and I had people around me, especially who I don't know. I think we're just getting more depressed, more anxious at that time, and even one particular person feeling suicidal. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do or what I can do to help people in these situations. And it was just like, what's a good way to do the best you can, especially remotely, and help people out. And so I was talking to the cousin of my wife, and we were just talking about a lot of the issues in general at that time and about what we could do together and this and that. And so the idea of Spirit Lift came out of that, and it was basically at that time just to talk about themes and issues to help people around anxiety and depression. That was the impetus of it. And now it's kind of evolved in a way where we focus on like three main things. We talk like I'm more, I would say more like Christ-based, Christian-based in my faith and my practice, my religious practice. I do talk about one of the themes we focus on is spirituality. And because I'm also interested in what what Rupert Sheldrake talks about and what Bruce Lipton talks about and all these people, because I kind of like also out of curiosity the quantum mechanics side of things and this kind of investigation people do between the bridge and the gap of a spiritual realm and this world and try to explain that in a quantum mechanic related way. It just interests me, so I thought it would be interesting to focus on themes like that. But I also talk to people who talk about life after death and talk about numerology, just because those kind of things really interest me, especially because when my mother-in-law died, you are searching for answers as best as you can. You want to know as much as you can. So one of the main things we focus on talking about are themes around spirituality, I would say. Another one is health and nutrition. And then the last main thing is motivation and inspirational chats, is what I call them, spirit chats. So the whole idea is just to be curious. And I call it a journey to a better you, because I don't believe in any way that we can always find the definite answer to anything. I think the journey to develop and grow and be more immersed in the understanding of life and aware is everything. So I call it that, a journey to a better you, because it's about the journey of self-discovery and just knowing yourself and knowing the world around you. And I like I like focusing on those three main topics to share with viewers, because you cover the health related issues, you find topics to really help and inspire people, and I in the end of the day just wanted to try to make a positive impact in that way. So I'd be heavily encouraged if your viewers, if they're interested, to check it out. And if you do like it, I mean, and Josh knows this, it always means a lot for someone like Josh or myself, when new content comes out, to really like the video and
Yeah.
sharing the video is just a huge thing. So if you wouldn't mind,
Yeah,
just
sharing. Oh, 100%. That's the
yeah,
biggest thing, without question. It's the biggest thing.
exactly. And also hit, and Josh says this too, and I've heard him over the years. If you got to hit the bell after you subscribe, you have to hit the notification bell, because you may not know, or you'll at least be more informed right away once a new video does come up. That's new. So you don't miss anything. So it would mean a lot if people are interested to do all that and like, share, subscribe, because you have to be your own best promoter on
Well,
with these
absolutely, man.
things, and because you are putting your time and effort and want to make a positive impact like Josh does. I'm sure all your viewers knows that 100%, and
Well,
it
all my
does.
viewers, you're
All
always
right.
gonna have, you're always gonna have people throwing mud at you.
Oh,
That's
that's fine. I
yeah,
and I you know um I love having healthy debates on issues, and I'm always curious about what people think and people's feedback.
yeah,
And one of my main things, and I think for your viewing audience, Josh, is that if people engage with you in a way in your comments that's also healthy and
healthy.
constructive,
Yeah, right.
that helps, not just for the dialogue, but that
Yeah,
helps also, like, for Josh to get new ideas for
yeah.
videos to help
Oh,
you
big
guys
time.
out, and help it would help me as well. Like when you leave comments, like, what do you think about this, or how does it
Yeah.
relate to your life? Because that actually gives people like us new ideas as well, what to give you, because it's cathartic, but it's also, a way of serving and sharing, if that makes sense.
Well, the funny thing is that the people, like, I banned a guy yesterday. Everything he posted was just negative. I said, look, man, negativity is good to some extent, but if everything you're focusing on is negative, it's just not worth the time. And I don't want the negative energy here, because it's there's too much of that, man. And especially live in America. I'm like, oh, this what drives me. Just kind of going back to Mexico versus America. You're in this country. There's no one holding you down. Why get so negative on? It's crazy to me. And look, it's nothing. We're
Well,
a human
well,
being.
Josh, I have something to speak to that, if you don't mind. Like, through the course of talking to certain people about why they may be positive or negative in their life, depending on what's going on, a lot of it, and I'm growing more and more with this idea as well through my own growth, is, and I hope for anyone to do it in their own way, but I think people need to start manifesting, growing what they need to discover from within,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
yep,
then share it. The thing
yep,
is, like, too many people that are depressed or just negative, like you say, or just are attacking people, are just attached too much to the outside world. Like, my life really turned around, especially the last few years, when I really spent so much more time doing prayer, meditating, and investing in myself, reading a lot, even just sitting in silence sometimes, which is really hard to do, actually.
it is. Yep,
But the
yep,
more your mind settles
yep,
down, the more you feel a shift inside,
yep.
and you feel.
100%.
And the thing is, slowly over time, when you're spending more time with yourself and growing from within, you're gonna what I've noticed is that you become a lot more aware of everything going on around you, much more acutely. You become less compulsive to react to things. You become more patient. You feel like a certain energy of peace that
Yeah,
is like
yep,
an aura around you. I don't It's hard to explain these things, but the thing is, people need to invest a lot more in themselves. And I one of my pet peeves, unfortunately, and I'm guilty of it as well, is like, too many people becoming way too addicted to the social media
yep,
and to their phones, and it's becoming a deterrent and a distraction away from, like, them actually, you know understand what's going on inside of their what I refer to, and many people do, is the soul,
yeah,
right? Like, what you're really made of, and
yeah,
I just, I really, that's kind of my way of. There's a really, really great book, and I think might like it as well, Josh, and whoever else, but a book that I read once a year at least, by a Irish author called John O'Donohue.
mm,
It's called Amakarta. It's a Gaelic word meaning soul friend. And he was like a scholar and also a very well-known poet from Ireland. And he died really early, actually, like 52. He had a heart attack. It was crazy. But he wrote a beautiful book called Anamkara, and that's in Gaelic. And it's really about his self-discovery and journey of understanding God and the soul and everything else. But it's written so beautifully and in such a way, and in such a way that there's those type of books. And I think you know, Josh, because you love reading and you always talk about books on your show, and you seem to be a book nut in that way. But like, you know, there's certain books when the words come out at you, it hits you inside. You feel it, you know, and this is one of those books for me. It's like I feel something each and every time I read it. And I'm like, I like to highlight words or lines with a pencil. And the whole book, I marked the whole book. I was like, why did I mark almost every single sentence on virtually every page? And I shouldn't have done that. That was a bad idea.
Well, it's the Irish. There's something in the water in Ireland where their wordsmiths. I mean, I talk about some of these Irish folks I read and follow. It just the way they write is from God. It's nuts, man, and it's insane.
Well, let me tell you something really beautiful, Josh. When I was living in England, a couple years after when I started living there, my mom moved to Dublin because my stepdad, who's Mexican, he got really severe cancer, but the insurance wouldn't cover properly his cancer related issues here in Mexico. So they found out for what he needed and the type of doctors he needed, they could move to Dublin. So for at least a couple of years, my mom was living in Dublin and I was in England, and that was really nice because it was only like a 40-minute flight between Heathrow and Dublin. So I visited them quite a few times when that was going on. And when my wife and I decided to get married, and I still had the ring, well, obviously, but this is how our kind of first marriage before the Mexican wedding took place. We went on a street in Dublin called Grafton Street, like this very commercial area where all the shops and the bars and stuff are. We just said, hey, I guess I got an idea. I don't know. I think I said it. I said, hey, we should get married now. Whatever, you know? So we decided, let's do like a Gaelic ceremony. And she's like, yeah, what a great idea. Okay. And now she's stuck with me and she's probably regretting it. But anyways, so we went to a ring shop on the corner of Grafton Street, and we found these two beautiful matching marriage rings. And the thing is, in Ireland, sometimes you get those matching rings rather than, you know, the rock and just a gold or silver band. You sometimes get those matching wedding bond rings. So we each got one of those. I went to an internet cafe that was close by, and I printed out I typed in some thing like beautiful Gaelic ceremony sayings or whatever it was. I don't remember. So I printed that off. We went to a park right across the street called St. Stephen's Green.
Yeah, right.
And we bought a candle, like a white candle, and there was like a rock that overlooks like a small pond there. We went on. This is insane. We went on top of that rock. I lit the candle, and the weather started to get bad. It was windy. Like it's always bad in Dublin, but it was getting windy and overcast and drizzling a little. But you know what? I lit the candle, and the candle did not blow out.
Oh man,
it didn't blow. And we're talking wind.
Yeah, right.
And we say each other the vows we printed off. I put the ring on her finger. She puts it on mine. And literally like a minute after that, it cleared up. The candle went out after that. And there was beautiful sunshine.
Yeah, man.
Josh, you can't make this up.
No.
You know, like, I mean, you could, but I'm telling you this, you can ask my wife. It was just insane. I mean, there's weird
Yeah,
serendipitous things that
yeah,
happen when we were actually in Dublin and in
yeah,
Ireland in general
yeah.
that were just mind blowing. You know, I
It's
mean,
not
just
coincidence. No such thing. I tell you, man. I heard the story. You know, because I talk to people for a living, and you hear these stories, Devin. You're like, "There's no such thing as coincidence." I am sorry. It's insane. It's insane. All the different things that happen. No such thing as coincidence. Because something like that. I mean, look. Okay, maybe the likelihood we can make. We can explain why that could have happened, but the problem is the explanation itself during the same time you did it. You see what I'm saying? It's not a coincidence. It's just not. There's
it's
something
just because,
magical.
especially when you think about the forces of nature
Yeah.
in play. I'm just thinking about the candle itself. Like, how did that candle not blow out?
Well, especially during the one you're getting married. It's not just like a football round. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, we can explain, I get all that, but I'm just like, you hear stuff like that all the time. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into the thing about evolution versus creationism, but at the end of the day, the amount of things that had to work so we would be here today is so unlikely to be almost impossible, if that makes sense. Now, nothing
No.
is, and I get it, these evolutionary biologists, well, I follow Brett Weinstein and stuff, but
Yeah.
the idea that this just is from a primordial soup, these things that have to be so perfectly inclined over and over and over again, it's like, stop. Like, no
Well,
one in their right mind would ever say that's like not just likely, but that's even possible. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
but also, Josh, like these scientists you mentioned, like even Miko Yaku and all these, renowned scientists, kind of mainstream now, like
Yeah,
they like when they talk about what we see with our visible eye
yeah,
versus what's unseen, like they say that the universe is made up of like what is it, over 97% uh dark matter, dark energy, so something that we can't visibly um analyze
right.
or
Hey,
see or anything. So what that says to me in a way is that there, what I think of the intelligence of life itself and the spirituality of life being so enormously vast
right,
that our puny little,
right, exactly, right.
I think we, and I've spoken to just several people around these issues of how they comprehend what we are as humans and everything else, and they're like, your body is just a conduit of greater things, and you got to know how to use it
Yeah,
correctly and exercise it correctly to understand God and the actual spiritual realm and what you're doing here on earth, And the thing is, our minds, there's a really interesting book I would recommend too, Josh, you being the book man, is that is I love the near death experience stories
yeah,
because the reason is because especially this is going back to my mother-in-law, just trying to get this idea of what happens to us when we're gone, right? It really fascinates me, and there's only certain ones that I really would pay attention to because of their stories,
yeah,
especially because it's always about the stories. But there's this guy named Dr. Eben Alexander. He was the head of Harvard Medical School, I think, for several years, especially in the 90s. He was the head of one of the top premier medical institutions in the US. He was the top guy, and he had a really unusual cranial meningitis infection that just knocked him out, right? He describes very scientifically in his book, I think it's called From Heaven. I don't know, just type in his name, you can find him. But he describes very medically like how his brain, how his frontal cortex was literally just completely destroyed, and how it was ravaging his whole body, this disease. But then he had this incredible experience that he talks about, this like very heavenly experience
yeah.
he talks about, and he met someone from that experience that he later found out was his sister that died, that he never met because he was adopted. and the book basically goes
Right.
from a very medical sort of point of view, because he was so skeptical.
Right.
Because he was a hardcore scientist, and he
Yeah.
wanted to know what was really going on,
Right.
why it happened. Could he possibly have had the experience he had because of his situations, conditions, being in the hospital, and asking all these experts about it, and they all concluded no.
Yeah.
And so that tells me it's just fascinating, really.
Well, like Stephen Hawking. I mean, R.I.P.
Yeah.
But the idea that this guy I just sit there like Richard Dawkins. I'm sitting there thinking, who's the other guy? The big three. You got Hawking, Dawkins, and the guy who's got a big podcast. So actually, I don't mind.
Sam Harris.
Or Sam Harris. The idea, and I haven't listened to Sam Harris for a number of years, so I followed Dawkins because he kind of cracks me up, and Stephen Hawking just annoying me. But I mean, he's dead now, so I'm not trying to speak ill to dead. But the idea that they have solved with their puny brains what this is, just I've seen there, the arrogance of this all. It's insane to me, especially when we talk about dark matter, especially when you talk about there's so many holes in Darwinism. I mean, this is not even debatable anymore. I'm just sitting there thinking, just a little bit of humble and say, we don't know what we don't know. Maybe just to kind of go back and, like you said, Devin, the hardest thing to do for a human being is to sit in silence and let your mind wander. I don't do it nearly enough. And I tell you, but when I used to do that on a regular basis religiously, I had the best. It was like, I need to go, but I sometimes do that. I just got to do it every day. I had the most fundamental relaxation. It takes over.
I would love to speak on that really quick, Josh, as well, to my own experiences too. Well, and just before that, I'll tell you two quick stories about both Dawkins and Hawkins. Okay, I've met both of them.
Oh.
Because when I was living in Oxford, because they were both well, Dawkins was already still teaching there, and Hawkins came as like a visiting lecturer at the Oxford the Union Hall, where they do a lot of special speakers there to the students. So when I was living in England, I got a part-time job because England was expensive. It still is really expensive. So I had to get a part-time job, and I worked at a hotel there called the Old Bank Hotel, which is on the high street. And one of my other friends worked at a different hotel called the Randolph Hotel, which is a beautiful historical hotel, very well known in Oxford. And they always get the famous people that go there. Michael Jackson, when he went there many years ago, he rented out 3 floors of that hotel for his security, for this and for that, for his tiger or whatever it was. So like Randall, and I had a friend who I was going to school with, and he was working at that hotel part-time in the concierge. So he called me one day. He said, "You gotta tell your boss, come down here, take a food break, whatever it is, just come." Blah blah blah. So I went down there, and Hawkins is dead now, but when I saw him at that time, people don't understand that he had an entourage. He had his. I don't think it was his wife. It was someone else taking care of him, but he had like 5 or 6 people around him. And he had this huge wheelchair and this huge machine. And I saw that screen he had where he had all his translation things to talk. And it was a massive, it looked like the Matrix, this is this huge screen. And so I just kind of catty-cornered around this part of the hotel. And I just wanted to get a face view of him. And I saw him, and I was like, and poor guy, his body just really out of whack. And then I saw Dawkins. You could see him more around Oxford in general, because he just kind of goes from one cafe or a restaurant or whatever. And I saw him outside a pub called, what was it, Black Horse there, and he was just reading something. But when it's weird, Josh, when you're talking about these people, the face tells you so much about a person. The face, and this what this John O'Donohue from the book Anam Cara talks about. He talks a lot about the face and what it tells about what the person's feeling inside. And when I looked at both of their faces, it's just, there's a lot of like this is mangled kind of look, because they're deep down inside that people like that, I think, are frustrated to a degree that affects their physicality so badly, you know. And the second thing, really quick, about your experience we were talking about, that's something that I felt as well, like 2 or 3 years ago. It's like trying to get in a moment of silence and like peace with no thought going on, which it actually takes a long time.
It's hard.
It's very hard. But Wim Hof, he calls it the monkey mind. Yeah, I love his song about crazy like a monkey. It's really hilarious. But he calls it the monkey mind. And I felt that same thing that you did when I finally got to a position of just like what they call emptiness in a way, like just no thought. And I just felt, for me, it was life changing because I felt an overwhelming sense of love.
Yes.
Like insane. It's like a filter came off, and I just felt amazing. I did. The only way I can describe it is just like a fountain of love. I was like, what is this? And I never got it again.
Well, the funny thing is, Devin, if you read C.S. Lewis, the Screw Tape Letters, he says what hell is constant noise. He doesn't say you're burning and gnashing. He says, and look, C.S. Lewis is not Jesus, I grant you, but he's a pretty good apologist. And I've always thought that in Screw Tape Letters, constant noise, perpetual noise, no peace and quiet. I said, that is, for me, the epitome of hell. Can I just listen to my head for 2 seconds? And we have these things that don't make us smart, and yet I'm addicted to it just like everybody else. And it's all it does is perpetual rob you of God's trying to talk to you. Oh,
every viewer, like everyone watching this video, and if they do in the future, should watch the Netflix documentary Social Dilemma.
Oh yeah, no, that's
and then sit down with your kids and say, look, you got to stop, because the thing is that documentary outlines very well our dependency on these things and what it does to our psychology and our addiction, and these people and these companies hire the best psychologists in the world to know how to hit that dopamine in your mind.
I did a video about a month ago, Devin, where I was listening. I don't know if you know who Bridget Fetisi is. She does the and she was interviewing this porn lady, and it was just sad, and not the porn lady herself, because that's her choice, do whatever she wants. But she has this OnlyFans thing, and she has, like, I presume men, but they're like addicted to her on this. Like, that is like this phone. And she was saying this. She was, it's sad. These people aren't on my OnlyFans so I can show my boobs. They're on it just so they can email me or text me, and I give them a sense of that they exist. And I said, and she was saying, this is horrible. This is pornography. And what it's doing is it's making relationships out of her as a real human being. Now, she was upset by it because, she's like, I'm a real human being. All they know me is this, porn star. But she goes, that's even worse now, because they see a relationship in the phone, and they don't even need me to show my boobs. They just need me to say you exist. And I said, it was worse than that. I said, man, this is horrible. And going back to what you said about the social dilemma, about they're literally rewiring your brain, and and pornography, the phones, these are all things that are in here. And for men, I don't know about women, but I do know men have an addiction tendency to pornography for sure. And we just kind of but it's not, it's something, it's evil, man. It's going back to C.S. Lewis. It's that constant noise that you can't escape. And
that's why what's interesting about Rupert Sheldrake as well, like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he went to India many, many years ago, and he talked about his experience in India and how he became, closer to God and his own spiritual path and everything like that. And the thing is, what tends to happen, or the propensity to happen, especially in Western culture and civilization in our more modern era now, is that they make all these things very enticing, and the platform's enticing, because what it does psychologically is hit more of the filter, the frontal cortex part. So you stay within the psychology and in the lower, let's say, vibration of your way of being. The thing is, and if you go to, certain parts anywhere in the world, but like, I'm thinking about these parts that Rupert talked about in India and other places where they have literally nothing and spend most of the day praying, meditating, and whatever else. The thing is, they feel it, the energy there,
Yes.
and the way that they interact with each other is so powerful that people, like, they say in certain parts of India, especially, people will go to certain places and, and not just temples, but like certain communities and things like that. And people just start to weep and cry. And they say, because they feel something, they're like, why am I feeling like this? It's because the people around them are so heavily invested in their own internal, spiritual path. And they're spending a lot of time praying, meditating, things like that, that they give off, they emit a certain energy where people just, they change almost. There's weird cases, Josh, of people going to these places, even who have very terminal diseases and being cured, some months later. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to try to explain that. I'm not an expert in any capacity, but the thing is, and going back to what you been speaking about before as well, is like, if you invest in yourself, if you take the time to get to know yourself and build your own you really start to understand in a way that is within you, you're going to be unstoppable, because you're going to be unfiltered with a sense of love and joy and giving that no one else can provide for
you. And they can't take it away.
They can't take it away. 100%. You could be in Times Square, sitting in a chair, happy and, on your own, minding your own business, and you could see the craziest, riots or whatever happening around you and be, unswathed at all,
It doesn't have to, and everyone, the Viktor Frankl stuff, and I like that, but it doesn't have to be sitting in a Holocaust, or, now I get there's some controversy with Viktor Frankl, but it doesn't have to be that. It just has to be your own war inside you. And if you, it's funny you said the Indian stuff, and I like, when I was growing up, I liked a lot of heavy metal and hardcore music, and the hardcore music, especially from New York, they went to this Krishna stuff, and a lot of this, I was like, what is going on? Is weird. And but anyway, some of those guys are still in that Indian movement. And I was listening to one guy was interviewed by Joe Rogan, and I was like, holy crap, that guy. And he's still knee deep. He's got 5 kids. He lives in upstate New York. And his name's Ray Capel. And I said, that guy, he's the way he says, the energy that exudes from this guy, because he's whatever the Hindu or was, I don't even know what it is, you know what I'm saying? But he came back, he went to India and he came back, he's all that. And but the positive energy that is exuded from that guy is addictive, man. It's like so alluring, and it's so, the energy of his lack of hate, like none. I mean, I'm sure he fights it, but you're sitting there thinking, this is how me as a Christian says Jesus wants us to be. And that's how you draw people in by, it's hard because
it is. And Josh, I want to tell you something really interesting. For Spearlift, I interviewed a girl from India, actually, and she talks, the episode I did with her on Spearlift was talking about, can we heal diabetes in just a pure natural way with the food we eat? And it was only about that. And this, she's a doctor, and she lives but in a very remote part of India. And the whole episode was about her talking about how a certain type of diet can cure diabetes. It was only about that, because I was intrigued. I was like, well,
absolutely.
I have no idea, but I asked her about it. And I think when I was speaking to her after the episode finished, I asked her, like, how is it that you and these people around you are so happy? Because I saw her grandma and I saw this person, after the episode around. I'm like, what's going on there? Because I just noticed it, and it's just, I will never forget what she said, Josh. She's like, if you want to be happy in this life, you have to empty everything out. I was like, what do you mean empty everything out? She's like, you can only find out what your meaning of life is, and she said, don't chase after meaning. There is no meaning. You just have to understand what it is to be, have a touch of God. Like, we can't fathom God, but a touch of God by emptying out. I'm like, you mean, what does that mean? She's like, no attachment. I was like, wow. So like it's not easy to like these can be just too esoterical or too like out there to comprehend. But I think I got what
Oh,
I really pondered what she was saying, but not and trying not to do it in an analytical way, but really trying to almost feel what she meant from that and apply it to myself. And so I think for me it's just like having I'm trying to become my own best friend now, if that makes
yeah,
sense. And I don't think I think that has to be the most important thing each of us can do, because I think if we become our own best friend, ultimately in the end of the day, we are going to make everything around us
yeah.
beautiful.
That's
We're
what
going
I'm
to make
saying.
our relationships
Yep,
with our family beautiful. We're
great
going to
point.
make the people. You gave the story about you went to, I think, Dunkin' Donuts and gave that while ago that woman a 1984 book
Yeah,
and a $50 bill. Like
yeah,
you gave her a book, and
yeah,
then some weeks later you went back and you gave that same woman a $50 bill.
yeah.
You gave her some money, but the thing is, I think you felt something where you're like, life is just amazing. I'm going to try to help who I can, how I can, and in the capacity I can, and that's
Yeah,
what makes life beautiful.
it's
But the
man, it
thing is,
is.
you got to start with you.
But see,
you
that's
know?
the problem though, because everyone. This is what I hate about racism, and I hate about everything in PC culture. Like I'm a victim. Everybody has their own life issues. Everybody does. Be it freaking Barron Trump or Hunter Biden. They all have their own issues. Every single person does. Every single person has also been blessed by Jesus Christ, his death on the cross. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, we all have our own issues, and yet somehow, for me, I know it's like giving up those issues has always been what has been my driving point. Is like, oh, I'm going to show them, or these, what I'm saying. It's like, and when you empty it out, you literally are born again, and it's hard, man. It's hard because you're like, yeah, but how about then, and how about those guys? And but you can't. And it's funny because you said about these Indians. I've always noticed like Mormons. Mormons are happy. I'm like, what the hell? Why are you guys so happy? It's just and they have a faith, but they have children. They're happy. They're hard workers. Some are a little bit too focused on money, if you ask me, but not all of them. But still, I'm like, but it's appealing. It's alluring. There's an energy there that Mormons who I've met have always exuded. That
but
I
just
just yeah.
but just imagine, Josh. Imagine if you do that for yourself, like
Oh yeah.
working on yourself and doing that, and then imagine if your community and the people around you
Yes.
do the same thing. You're gonna be like on
Unstoppable.
cloud nine all the
Yeah.
time. The thing is, that's what makes the difference is that, and look, you don't want to just only be around your kind
Right.
and
Right.
this and
Right.
that.
Right.
You want to face the grind
Yeah.
to help sharpen your tools, if that makes sense. But at the same time, if you are generally like your inner circle or those that you trust
Yeah.
and those that you want to share life with are doing the same thing as you in that way, man, that's like happy pills on steroids,
But that's why pray for your enemies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying? So such a
And
it's
forgiveness. Forgiveness is
if I
huge.
have to pray for my enemy, inherently I have to be in that place that which is why it's so flipping hard, because you want revenge, but you gotta say, I got to pray, because when you're praying, you're humbling yourself to say, okay, I don't have control. That's why, oh my goodness, scripture
Well,
is such a wonderful thing.
and I pray and go to scripture. Psalm is my favorite every night and every morning by default for years now. That's what I do. And you have to remember, Josh, as well, like in a way, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, but I don't like so much that terminology, going on the thread of what you're saying is like pray for your enemies,
yes,
forgive.
yes,
Forgiveness
yeah,
is a huge thing. I mean, if
yeah,
you can learn to
yeah.
forgive and do it wholeheartedly, that will lift a stone off your heart, and just never let the issues of life as best as you can
Yeah, yeah,
get to you. Like I'm not naive to think or to say that nothing is going to deter you or
yeah,
nothing's going to be, one of the episodes spoke about on Spirit Lift 2 is like, it is important that we are embracing hardship,
yeah,
because I think I think unfortunately there's a generation that's not experiencing enough of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
And I unfortunately have experienced that with certain families, and they are going to have kids that who never have said no to anything, and then I don't know what you're going to get after that. But the thing is, look, my first job, Josh, like earning money, was 8 years old, and guess what that was? A paper route.
I was say paper route. Yep.
When my parents divorced,
yeah.
When my parents split up, my dad was really poor. Like, we had no money. My dad was poor, and he could not. I have 2 other brothers, and he could not raise us and really give us anything for a long time. And there was one day and I'll never forget this story. It's always in my mind. I saw a neighborhood kid go down the street, and he had this beautiful bike, mountain bike. In the 90s, we used to go on the mountain bikes. And I said to my dad, "I want that bike, please, Dad." My dad said, "No, shut up." I was like, "Oh, that's not nice to hear as an 8-year-old." And I said, "How can I get that?" Right? Because I do want that bike, but you're not going to give it to me. I don't even know where my mom is. She disappeared. So, how can I get it? He's like, "Let me come back to you and I'll let you know." So he came up with this idea, said, "Hey, you can get a paper route."
Yeah.
What was a paper route? I'm 8 years old, Josh. He said, a paper route. He said, "No worries. I'll take you to the distribution center. I'll go in the car, pick up the bundle of papers. But in that day, they used to drop them off on the corner of the subdivisions, and then you take out the tape or whatever.
Yeah, I know exactly what you meant.
Yeah. Totally. And so we would rubber band them, or we put them in the plastic if it was raining. And he said, "Go and deliver them." And then I had my chart of the houses, where to go. And Josh, I'll tell you, this was so satisfying. After the first month of doing that paper route, back in those days, they gave the paper company gave this black books, and with every house that you would collect money from, you would have to rip off these little tab things on the bottom for every 15 days. And then you would knock on the person's door. I would say, "Hey, Miss Jackson, and hey, Mr. Roberts, I'm here to collect the paper route money."
Right.
I would give them those peeled off tabs, and I say, "Here it is, sir." And I'm 8 years old. "Here it is, sir. That's $30. And then I did that for 50 people over a weekend. And I was like, "I got money. I'm rich." But Josh, that one thing my dad did for me and taught me, changed my life. 100%.
Then I remember doing the collection. Oh man! And now there's no paper routes. I tell you, technology is a wonderful thing, but 8-year-old kids aren't working anymore, Devin, and that's bad. You know what I'm saying? That is bad because
they are in Mexico, but for worse reasons. Unfortunately,
Anyway, all right. Well, Pablo's getting grumpy now, so I'm going to let you go. But all right, so don't forget, folks. Devin's channel is. I'll put it again here, and I'll put it in the comments too. Don't forget to subscribe. It's been fantastic. I wasn't expecting this little turn, but we've talked a number of times, Devin, before, so I wasn't. So, folks, we didn't have any kind of formal plan of action. I'd really never have a formal plan of action. It's always like, hey, hearing people's stories, but especially when it comes to stuff that's, people who are well thought, it's always interesting. Learning that about Hawkins is interesting because just the idea he had this whole get up that you never saw unless you saw it. You know what I'm saying? Like Stephen Hawking, you think, oh, but he had this whole thing and just here's a guy, and all right, Pablo. But
in that circumstance, Josh, I with all his quote unquote prestige and experience, I, in a way, just seeing him face to face like that, I almost just felt kind of bad because his body just in his face, he just looked.
Well, but not even that. It's you think about it. He's using modern stuff that comes from our brains to live, and I'm just sitting here thinking, it's just how does he? It's amazing to me that this is just from a primordial soup, and I'm like, this is all because humanity has a conscience that we don't want to let you die. We don't, but yet 100 years ago we would have, and we've developed as such a. It's weird to me.
Well, and the big tech wants to focus on transhumanism and the singularity, and because they want to live forever.
Right, which is frightening of its own. But I'm sitting there thinking, Stephen Hawking, you had no value in terms of regular of the world, but something happened along the way that made you have value, and it's just that something is, I would say, is obviously starting with the foundation of Jesus, but it goes through. I find it to be. How do you think that now you're just sitting there in this? It's just sad. It boggles. I'll let you go. It's just sad. I see a guy like that who every other year of history, other than the modern era, would have been seen as castaway, and because of humanity valuing human beings because of what came before, he was allowed to go on, and it just is. That can't be atheistic if you just think we just go to this black abyss. It is what it is. It just boggles me. All right, so I will put this on here. Devin, good chatting with you. Appreciate you being here, brother. And give Valentina, what's your just give your wife big hugs. And
your family too, Josh.
Hey, right on, Devin. Thanks again, man. And reach out to Devin, folks. Follow his YouTube channel. And if you got questions about Mexico, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer for sure.
Yeah, anything your viewers want to know more detail about, like financial related things about Mexico, Josh, just send me an email and I'll be happy to answer that.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Devin. All right, Pablo, we're gonna let you go. Thanks, Devin.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, here he is. Look at him.
Hey, Pablo.
Let me go. I gotta go.
Oh, he's hungry. Sure. Yeah, he's go potty more than anything, probably.
See you, Devin. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.